1978. Another student that was in the protest was J. Blaine Hudson, who would later serve as a chairman of the Department of Pan-African Studies from 98 to 2003, and then the supreme irony, he became the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, appointed 2004. So the College of Arts and Sciences, J. Blaine Hudson was the dean of. Here's one picture of the aftermath. There's that Alvin Bikes getting arrested after taking over the Arts and Science building. And the Arts and Science building still looks like it. It's still got that door. So, in later years, other militant groups existed briefly in Louisville. Among them was a chapter of the Black Panther Party and JOMO, which is the Junta of Militant Organizations, JOMO, JOMO, and the multiracial and still active Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Here's a nice picture of a black and white kid. A new friendship happening. Hey, how are you, man? It's actually really touching. This is during the busing riots. A new friendship, 1975, from the Courier-Journal archives. Some other pictures. Here's Lyman T. Johnson. There's a middle school is named after Lyman T. Johnson. And then here's the, to ensure the black kids' safety, they had police officers ride the bus to make sure they weren't getting attacked when they were being bused into white schools. And then here's the Ku Klux Klan right in front of the Board of Education, protesting in front of the Board of Education. In 1970, the Newburgh Area Council versus Board of Education case raised this issue. After the case made its way through the lower courts, the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ordered on December 28, 1973, the creation of a unitary school district, which prompted the merger of the Louisville and Jefferson County school systems and the desegregation through court-mandated bus in the consolidated district for fall of 1975. Interestingly, merger had been discussed intermittently since October 16, 1950, and Mayor Andrew Broadus had attempted but failed to effect merger in 1954. Merger was proposed again in 1966, but only after the 1973 ruling in a complex series of legal maneuvers did the districts actually merge until April 1st, 1975. So April 1st, 1975, that's when Louisville actually merges. They're this harbinger, right? They're saying how great the race relations are here in Louisville, but it took them to 1975. 1975 is when they integrated. So that's 37 years, no, 7 is 82, so 37 years. Took 37 years. 37 years ago, we just integrated. So anybody who's 37 years, older, 37 years. So if you was 10, if you're 47, you saw the white supremacist riots. If you're 47, so the 40-year-olds around here are probably racist because they saw all this. Louisville gained national recognition for its voluntary desegregation plan in 1956. 1956, Louisville was going to desegregate, but then they became a different kind of national attention when violent opposition to busing exploded. Primarily in white working-class neighborhoods, white protesters flooded the streets with anti-busing signs and hurled insults at black children caught in the maelstrom of a conflict beyond their understanding. The Ku Klux Klan held an anti-busing demonstration in front of the Jefferson County Board of Education's offices, then located in the Brown Hotel building at 4th Street and Broadway. To protect children from physical violence, state and local police rode the buses as escort. Tear gas was sometimes used to keep the threatening mobs at bay. The busing plan put the burden of desegregation largely on African-American children who were bused many more years than were white students. Here's a pretty compelling picture of the mini Civil War in Louisville. This is the protest of white people in 1975. These are the white people that hated the black students from going to school. They hated black students going to white schools. Here's York, who's with Lewis and Clark. There's a statue of York in Louisville. I think it's York. This mini Civil War was not surprising that the patterns of support for and opposition to busing reflected the racial and class divisions of the region. There's strong support from the whites in the largely middle and upper class East End, but most, but not all, African Americans. Most African Americans supported integration, but not all of them. In fact, they got a picture of here of Beneath Ellis, a leader of the Black Protective Parents, a group that challenged the busing plan and worked to protect the interests of black students in 1975. But mostly middle and upper middle class in the East End. Whites, middle and upper middle class in the East End supported integration. Most African Americans did, but the most opposition was from whites in the largely working class South End. So in the South End is where there's a lot of opposition from white people to integration. This is the same sections of the region that had opposed open housing with such vehemence and such violence. This is South Louisville. I'm in South Louisville now. So here's the parents meeting, the leader of the Black Protective Parents, Beneath Ellis. They challenged the busing plan, so not all black folks were for it. Here's Ed Hamilton. He's the one that created the statue of Abraham Lincoln, which is at the Waterfront Park in 2008. It was installed and dedicated in 2008. His name's Ed Hamilton. And then here's when we had one of the greatest police chiefs Louisville's ever seen, Robert White. 2003. He's the first chief of the Louisville Metro Police Department, which employs 2,000 sworn and civil personnel. So there's 2,000 police officers, LMPD, overall 2,000 of them. White's also the first African-American chief of a police department in Louisville or Jefferson County. His tenure began on January 6, 2003, the day Louisville Metro came into existence. So when Louisville Metro came into existence, Robert White was the police chief. Just before he went to, where did he go? Robert White. Did he go to Colorado? Denver. I think he went to Denver, Colorado. So, 2 Centuries of Black Louisville. It's a good book. It's got all the stuff, most of the stuff about Black Louisville. It's pretty comprehensive. It's a lot of pictures, so it's easy to flip through. Pretty informative, and it's his lasting tribute. I mean, this is like his. This is Blaine Hudson's, magnum opus. This is his culmination of his life's work, is in this book here. So, you order it online, check it out, read it. It's in the library. You can definitely check it out. Even James Clotter liked it. James Clotter wrote The New History of Kentucky. So, okay. R.I.P. J. Blaine Hudson, R.I.P. man. Louisville's definitely it's gonna miss you, and I don't know. The best thing to say about a person when they die, I think, is you can't say anything that makes it better. Nothing can make them come back. But you can have the best way for the living to remember them, I think, is there's an old Indian saying that says every time you say the person's name to the earth, they're still alive. So what that means to me is that the living has got to make the memories live on. So the memories of J. Blaine Hudson has got to go on. I remember he was in Ambassador Shabazz class. He talked about the Underground Railroad in Louisville. Talked on and on about it, how there was a massive Underground Railroad here in Louisville. Talked about the mini Civil War in 1975. He also had the 55,000 college scholarship program going on. And a bunch of stuff. So it's up to the living to memorize J. Blaine Hudson's legacy, to show his pictures, to show his work, to talk about his work, to talk about stories about him, to always keep the memory of who he was alive. And he was a badass. He was really cool. I was really impressed with the guy. A couple more things. In 2004, J. Blaine Hudson was appointed to the post Arts and Science, College of Arts and Science in U of L. He took a leave of absence in August, and he told his colleagues in an email that he had serious health problems and he had to undergo cranial surgery. And he said, at the time, prognosis is good. All the marbles are still there. The Freedom Park on U of L's campus is an effort to counterbalance the Confederate statue erected near the campus in 1895, which is the largest Confederate statue in Kentucky. He also worked on the restoration of civil rights for former felons. There's an old African proverb that says, when an elder dies, it is as if an entire library has burned to the ground. J. Blaine Hudson was 63 years old. I don't think he was poisoned or anything. I don't know. That's what Stokely Carmichael claimed. It was the FBI that killed him. And the FBI did take care of a lot of the Black Panthers in the 60s. 2011 book, Centuries of Black Louisville, Photographic History. Kenneth Clay and Aubespin, retired Courier-Journal associate editor. Hudson was born in Louisville, became involved in the civil rights when a downtown theater barred his entrance. So he wasn't allowed to go to the theater. J. Blaine Hudson lived here during segregation. He said later, as a student at the University of Louisville, he demonstrated at the Arts and Sciences Dean's Office, demanding improvement in educational opportunities for African American students. He and several fellow protesters were arrested, and he tried under the newly enacted Kentucky Anti-Riot Act. Charges were eventually dismissed, but Hudson was forbidden by the judge to return to campus for a year. So he was suspended. He was one of the students that was suspended for a year. They tried him under the Anti-Riot Act. That wasn't a riot. I mean, they just occupied the building. It wasn't a riot. And it was dismissed. So, J. Blaine Hudson. R.I.P. J. Blaine Hudson. I don't know if they'll be able to find one to replace you. Gerald Neal's still teaching there. I don't know, maybe there needs to be a new flock. A new vanguard of black leaders for U of L in Louisville. All right.